Why you need to stop getting upset over things. The Stoic view on calmness. Imagine you wake up in the morning, ready for the day, and suddenly it happens. You spill your coffee all over your clothes, or you get yelled at by a rude stranger on the street. Maybe you get an unexpected bill, or a coworker makes a comment that hurts you. What happens next? Most people get upset. They get mad, complain to themselves, or look for someone to blame. But does that do you any good? Epictetus said, "It's not the things themselves that disturb men, but their judgments about these things." That's what it's all about. The world around you will never be perfect, but you can learn to stay calm, no matter what happens. A Stoic would react differently in these moments. They wouldn't let a spilled cup of coffee or a rude person ruin their day, because they know the things that make me angry are often not the problem at all, but my reaction to them. But how do you manage to stay calm when everything goes wrong? How can you stop getting upset about things that are outside your control? That's exactly what this video is about. Why we constantly get upset about things, and why it's pointless. Have you ever noticed how much time you spend getting angry about things you can't change? Maybe about the weather, other people's behavior, or past events? But what good does it do? Does the weather get upset when you complain about the rain? Does another person's opinion change just because you're angry? Maybe about the weather, the behavior of others, or experiences from the past. But what's the point? Seneca said, "We suffer more in our imagination than in reality." This means that the anger often doesn't come from the actual situation, but from what we make of it. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You have an important appointment, but the cars in front of you aren't moving. Now, you have two choices. First, you get angry, hit the steering wheel, curse at the other drivers, and waste your energy. Second, you accept the situation, use the time to think, listen to a podcast, or just breathe deeply. The situation is the same, but your experience is completely different. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If something bothers you, ask yourself, will it still matter in 5 years? If not, then don't waste energy on it." The next time you notice yourself getting upset, pause and ask yourself this question: is this really important? Will it make a difference in a few weeks or years? In most cases, you'll find, no, it won't. But if it's that simple, why do people still get upset? How to stop getting upset instantly. If you want to spend less time feeling angry and frustrated, you need to understand one simple but powerful idea. You can't control the world, but you can control how you react to it. That's the core of Stoicism. Think about a time you recently got upset. Maybe someone criticized you. Maybe you made a mistake. Or maybe your day was just full of little frustrations. Would it have made a difference if you had stayed calm? The answer is yes. But calmness doesn't just come naturally. You have to practice it. Here are 3 simple techniques to help you stop getting upset so easily. The 5-second pause. Every time you get upset about something, pause. Slowly count to 5 and ask yourself, is this really that bad? This short break is often enough to interrupt your impulse and stay calmer. Seneca said, "Anger is like a fire. Don't feed it, and it will go out on its own." Shifting your perspective. When something upsets you, imagine looking back at this situation a year from now. Will it still be important? 90% of the time, the answer is no. Epictetus said, "When something happens to you, don't ask yourself why it happened, but how you can deal with it." The Stoic Experiment. Pick a day where you consciously choose not to get upset, no matter what happens. Think of it as a challenge. When you feel like getting angry about something, remind yourself, "I'm a Stoic today. I won't let outside things bother me." If you do this regularly, you'll notice that anger is often just a habit. A habit you can change. What do you do when a situation is really tough? Of course, there are times when it's not so easy to stay calm. Maybe you lose your job, get bad news, or are treated unfairly. Even Stoics aren't emotionless, but they know they can decide how they handle the situation. Imagine you're preparing for a presentation for weeks. You've planned everything perfectly. But on the big day, the technology fails, and all your work seems wasted. Someone driven by their feelings might get upset, feel sorry for themselves, and maybe even give up. But a Stoic would immediately ask themselves, "Can I solve this problem? If yes, do it. If no, accept it. What's the best way to react in this situation? Can I use this situation to grow?" Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle in your path isn't the problem. Your reaction to it is the problem." The truth is, there are no good or bad events. There's only your interpretation of those events. Here's an exercise for you. Think of a difficult situation in your life. Write down how you reacted back then, and then write an alternative, Stoic reaction. How would a calm person have acted? This technique helps you learn from mistakes and prepare yourself mentally for future challenges. How to make calmness your superpower. Calmness isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you can practice. The Stoics had different ways to practice emotional control, and if you use them, you'll notice that you become calmer over time. Here are 3 more Stoic techniques to help you stay calm in any situation. Negative visualization. Imagine your worst-case scenario happening. What would happen then? Most people avoid this thought because it's unpleasant, but the Stoics used it on purpose. Epictetus said, "Prepare yourself in your mind for the worst, and then it will never take you by surprise." The principle of indifference. Ask yourself in tough times, does this really matter? Will this still be important in 5 years? Most annoyances are meaningless when you look at them from a distance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Life is too short to get upset about little things." Daily reflection. Seneca recommended asking yourself a simple question every evening. What upset me today, and could I have reacted differently? This self-reflection helps you to consciously control your reactions and become more stoic day by day. Why emotions aren't enemies, but guides. Some people think stoicism means having no emotions, but that's not true. The Stoics weren't robots. They felt joy, sadness, and anger just like everyone else. The difference? They didn't let their emotions control them. A Stoic feels anger, but they don't act on impulse. A Stoic feels fear, but they don't let it paralyze them. A Stoic feels pain, but they don't make it their enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This means you can choose whether you react negatively to a negative situation or whether you use it as an opportunity to practice your calmness. Imagine someone yelling at you. Your first impulse is to yell back. But right at this moment, you can ask yourself, do I really want to respond on this level? Or do I want to rise above this situation? At the end of the day, you'll never regret staying calm, but you will regret letting negative emotions carry you away. Here's an exercise for you. The next time someone provokes you, just smile and say nothing. Notice how that feels. How to handle stress and crises with calmness. It's easy to be calm when life is good. But what happens when something really bad happens? Losing a job, a breakup, a serious illness. These are times when true Stoic calmness is put to the test. The Stoics knew that life is unpredictable, but instead of being afraid of it, they prepared themselves mentally for it. Epictetus said, "Don't expect the world to bend to your will. Instead, bend your will to the world." This doesn't mean you should just accept everything. It just means you should accept reality and work with it, instead of fighting against it. Here are 3 Stoic principles to stay calm during tough times. See the obstacle as a chance. No matter what happens, ask yourself, how can I grow from this situation? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle in your path is not your enemy. It is your teacher. If you suffer a setback, use it as a lesson. If you fail, use it as practice in resilience." Use the power of the moment. When a crisis happens, most people immediately think of the worst possible outcomes. A Stoic, however, asks, "What can I do right now?" Because the truth is, the future is not in your hands, but this moment is. Epictetus said, "Focus on what you can do now. Everything else is meaningless." Remember your mortality. The Stoics used the concept of memento mori, the remembrance of one's own death. Not to be afraid, but to live life more consciously. If you realize that everything is temporary, you will see many things more calmly. You will be less afraid of making mistakes. Waste less time getting upset about little things. Because in the end, what matters is how you lived your life, not what you got annoyed about. The last step, living Stoicism, not just understanding it. When you reach this point, you know, calmness isn't accidental. It's a conscious decision you can make every day. The Stoics didn't just preach calmness, they lived it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still kept his cool. Epictetus was once a slave and didn't break. Seneca was under the thumb of a tyrant and stuck to his principles. And if they could do it, so can you. Here's your final exercise. Think of one thing that regularly stresses you out. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. That's the Stoic formula for a calm, strong, and fulfilling life. So, here's a question for you. What's one situation today where you can practice being calm and steady, like we talked about? Tell me about it in the comments. If you want to learn more about yourself and find ways to be more relaxed and positive in life, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It would help you out, and it would help me too. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can't control everything, but you can always choose how you react.